This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Hello, this is Scott Wells for the magicwordpodcast.com. Thanks a lot for returning again and watching this episode, and we're going to be having another wonderful guest. This time we're going to be going international. We're going across the pond over to England, which is why I'm wearing my FISM Italy shirt, going international, so to speak, because we're going to be having this, again, a very delightful conversation with a good friend, Jon Allen, who is also a member of the Inner Magic Circle with Gold Star. Very few of us in the world, and so he is a rare breed in many ways, and we're going to be having a lot of really good information that he's going to share with us. But before we do, I again want to thank everybody for being here. Want to encourage you, if you would please, just make sure that you just would subscribe to the Magic Word Podcast. And also that means to go to the pod letter. So this way, if we can let you know each week what's going to be coming up from week to week, who is coming up next week, and also some suggestions from the archives, just go to the website there and you will find the opportunity to subscribe to the pod letter. We have over 1,000 people then right now we reach each week. It is a weekly pod letter or newsletter that comes out letting you know about the contests and everything else that's happening then as well. I also invite you, if you would please, to subscribe to this channel. That's the youtube.com/Texas Magician. That way you'll be notified whenever we do go live with our broadcasts. We have weekly, and you will keep up to date on what's happening there as well. Well, anyhow, let me get into our guest here this week, because he is someone, again, I've known for a long number of years, and we don't get to share enough time because of the distance across the Atlantic. But this week, through the miracle of Skype, we are able then to join each other and have just a delightful chat. So please welcome my friend this week, Mr. Jon Allen, here on The Magic Word. Today I have with me from England, I have a good friend who I normally get only a chance to see annually at Fechter's Finger Flicking Frolic in New York, and that is far too few times. I really love an opportunity to be together with this guy because he is inspirational, he's funny, I like hanging out with him, he is very creative. You're going to learn a lot and make a good friend in this fine fellow. Please welcome Mr. Jon Allen. Hey there, Jon, how are you doing?
Hey, Scott, nice to meet you. Well, nice to meet you. No, it's been so long. Nice to see you.
Seems like such a long time.
I know. I hate the big build-up. There's such pressure on me now, but
that's right. You better follow through. Yes. Now, I'd forgotten to mention also at the outset of this that you were the inventor of silent treatment, which is a fantastic trick. And it's one of those things that has, I think, almost become a classic within our art. A lot of people have been using and making quite a reputation for themselves with this great effect. And it was also used by Jason Alexander as an opening trick, and he was the one who played Costanza in the Seinfeld show. Did he talk with you about that before he was going to be doing it, or did he just use it? Or
he didn't talk to me beforehand. I was getting some messages from people who'd seen him do his act at the castle. Mm-hmm. And that's the first that I knew about it. So he probably owes me royalties or something. But no, I managed to, or I had the opportunity to email him about it. And then when I was over at the castle, John Lovick brought him along so he could see me do it in my act. And I got the chance to talk to him about lots of things, but the silent treatment. I know that one of the things that he said drew him to it was the fact that when he comes out on stage, everybody assumes that it's going to be the character from Seinfeld.
Right.
So what he wanted to do was to be able to do something where he didn't actually have to talk, and so people would just see him sort of see the magic rather than the person first. And when he saw the silent treatment, he thought, "Yep, that's the opening trick for me."
Exactly. A perfect opening trick. I saw him perform this at M.I.M.C many years ago. And
Yeah.
afterwards, he gave a lecture and was talking about that very thing. And he'd worked with Andrew Goldenhirsch, I guess, who was
Oh, okay.
helping consult with his show. But rightfully so. Again, as you say, as he was doing it, everybody was just kind of chuckling as he was walking out on stage. And he was trying to maintain this serious,
Exactly.
non-smile on his face, just kind of a flat, expression and everything. Yeah, great trick. Certainly. When did you develop that? What year was that it actually went on market?
I think it was 2006, and I know you've mentioned 4F, and that was the first time I'd shown it to magicians.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been working on it for a few years before then, but that was the first time that I had revealed it. And for me, it is quite an experience to show a routine or a trick that you've been working on. And to show it to your peers and to get their reactions, and it was just so well received. I loved it. But I was going to say, I've also said many times that it's based on a film called The Others, which throws people. Have you seen The Others?
Isn't that a horror film?
It's not quite horror. It's Nicole Kidman. It's kind of a thriller type horror. But I remember coming out of that film, movies for the Americans, but I remember coming out of that film going, I love the premise of that film. Have you seen it yourself?
I think I have. It sounds familiar. Refresh my memory.
It's Nicole Kidman and a couple of kids living in a house, and strange things are happening, which could be the plot to so many films.
Okay, well, it narrows it down. Thank you.
Yeah, a wife, kids, scary house. No, and but I genuinely, I love that film. It's one of my favorite films, and if people haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go see it. But I genuinely came out of that film going, I want to come up with a trick that has that premise.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't give it away, but what I say to people is magic is very linear. You're going along on a straight line, and then suddenly there's a bit of a twist, and you go off on a tangent. But what happens has got nothing to do with what's been going on before. For example, if you've got a bill in a lemon or a note in lemon, it's a surprise that it ends up in the lemon, but people don't go, oh, that's why the card was chosen, and that's why he borrowed the bill, and that's why he vanished the bill. And people don't say that. There's just the surprise. And so much magic is like that. But what I wanted with the silent treatment was people to follow the trick, keep going, and then when they get to the end, they go, oh, that's why he did that, and that's why that happened. And that all came from The Others, because at the end of that film, you go,
sense.
That's why all those things happened during the film, and I loved it. So that was the basis for the silent treatment.
Well, you've solved and invented a trick that was something Banachek and I had talked about some years ago back. You remember The Matrix, whenever he went in to visit with the Oracle, and all these kids were there bending spoons with their mind and all that kind of stuff. And as he was walking into the kitchen, the Oracle had said to Neo, don't worry about that. I'll clean it up later. And he says, what are you talking about? And as he turned around, he knocked over this plate or something, and it crashed on the floor. She said that. And so, I mean, is that perfect? Gives you goosebumps, kind of thinking about, okay. Yeah. And Banachek was saying, if I could create something that would be like that, and that's kind of what mentalism, I think, is about in a way, of where you are actually really predicting something that will be in a future event, not like, hey, you were going to choose the word such and such or the color green or something, but an event that actually is going to be happening. I mean, it's almost like a psychic, I guess, foretelling your future. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'll clean that up later.
Yeah. Exactly. And then something happens, which they knock over your table or something, or they trip over something on the way out. If there could be something that happens in the context of your show. And likewise, I think like where in silent treatment, where you had created something that does happen at the end, it's like, oh, now I understand why, he was quiet, why his mouth was closed.
Yeah. because with magic, we're getting deep fairly early on here, but with magic, it's more than just a surprise, or it's more than just a shock. If you can make people think about things, or to realize that there's more to, I wouldn't say more to life, but more to the presentation than just look what I can do. That's what I try for. And as I said, the silent treatment, I'd like to think it's, I was going to say fairly unique, but you can't have fairly unique. But I can't think of another routine where the finale of the trick is the reason for doing the trick in the first place.
Oh,
so
yeah, you would.
If anyone listening or watching this can come up with something, then yeah, please get in touch.
Yeah. Is there an out for that trick?
Is there an out? Well,
Yeah.
we're getting into methods already.
Well, I would think sometimes you could paint yourself into a corner. For an example, the thing I just said about Neo. So don't worry, we'll clean that up later. That may not have happened then, but perhaps as he was leaving an hour later from the room or something, then she could say, well, remember when I told you earlier, we'll don't worry about that, we'll clean that up. It could refer to about the dishes where they were going to be eating something. Well, don't worry about that. I'll clean that up later or something. So those are some multiple outs in life, I guess. Yeah.
Well, what I'd say is with the silent treatment, it will always work.
Okay.
It will always work. But as I said, the beauty of it for me is we can give something away. Is that
sure.
I've got boards and they've got the wording on it as though I'm doing the talking, but I can't talk. But I'm not talking, and so we go through the routine.
People are reading it.
People are reading
the flip
it,
chart.
and a card is chosen, and I'm saying yes, it's a high card, it's a black card, whatever it is. They name their card. And then at the end, it says, would you like to know why during this entire time I haven't opened my mouth? And I love that moment, where you hope that the audience will get it a split second before you reveal.
Yeah.
And I want that, no. And then I reveal there's a card in my mouth. And they go, oh, I don't. And so you take the card, you open it up, and it's the card that they named during the trick. So there is that. I'm following it. I'm following along. Okay, we're reading it, and then you get, would you like to know why? And they go, what have I missed during this entire time? I haven't opened my mouth. And you go, oh, don't tell me the card's in your mouth. And then you show the cards in your mouth, and that's what I said when you go. That's why he hasn't been talking the whole time. Right. It's just that perfect circle.
And then the funny part of that, I think, at the end is whenever you turn around and you spit out the 51 others that were in the card index in your mouth. So
yeah, I have actually done that.
Oh, have you?
Yes, I have.
Oh.
I have. I did it on stage, and there were a couple of magicians in the audience, and I just completely they burst out laughing because they'd seen me do the silent treatment many times, and this was an addition, and they thought it was so funny, and I just was laughing at them laughing. So highly unprofessional, but very funny, just to
one-off kind of a thing.
Spit out 52 cards.
The rest of the card index. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll clean that up later. Whoa.
Wait a minute. So what are comedy clubs like in the UK, or are there any comedy clubs? I mean, they've not necessarily started to come back in the US. I mean, they certainly had a peak, and then once it fell off, I mean, there are a few around. There's really not a circuit per se. And I was talking to Noel Britton about this some long time ago, and I just was curious to see if there ever was or has been, since the peak, kind of a little bit of a return, or do you think there ever will be for comedy clubs in the UK?
I mean, I'm not an aficionado of the comedy club scene, but live venues, they are extremely popular.
Oh, they are? I mean, like variety clubs, nightclubs, that kind of a thing? And
yeah, I mean, a lot of them, our pubs over here will put on comedy evenings, variety evenings, things like that. We do have the Comedy Store, which is pretty popular. But I think keeping it timeless. I think people always want live entertainment, and they will search it out. So, I would guess like maybe you could say maybe in the 80s and 90s the comedy clubs were at their peak.
Sure.
But it's something that is definitely still around, and you can find it, definitely.
Well, whenever I've talked with people, well, it's been a while since obviously Paul Daniels, for an example, and he was taking his Max Malini show on the road.
Yes.
And when we were talking about that, and he was talking, and I thought, that's strange. I mean, the UK is the size of some of our states in the United States. I mean, how many clubs could there be? And he saw quite a few, apparently. So that's kind of a thing there, unlike here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just clubs as such, but venues. We've hotels as well. I know Steve
like John
Cohen.
Archer was working with Tim Vine, I guess, when they tour around, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, so John Archer is the opening act for Tim Vine. And yeah, they'll do a countrywide tour. John would be better placed to tell you how many, but it could be like 30, 40 dates, maybe 50 dates, something like that. So there are definitely there are definitely the venues around the UK. But as you said, I think the UK, the whole of our country, is about the size of Florida.
And are those venues that you work, or do you work at weddings? I mean, what is your?
I would work sort of either private events, corporate events. The wedding, it is one of those weird things that the wedding circuit over here in the UK is massive. It really is, and so much work for magicians is at weddings. But in the US, it's a rarity.
Pretty much zero.
Yeah, and I do not understand why. I've spoken to American friends about it, and they don't understand why. Because for me, I tell people it's a serious event, but people are there to have fun. And I know magicians like to say how good they are and these are the tricks I do and everything. But for a wedding, I think the selling point for me is you've got two families coming together, you've got two sets of friends coming together, you've got work colleagues all coming together, and no one really knows each other.
Right.
And you've got maybe like 6 or 7 different groups of people standing around. Maybe they don't really want to talk to anyone that they don't know. So the magician's job is to bring people together.
Exactly.
So I do not know why wedding magicians aren't popular in America. There's a massive market if someone can crack that code.
I have tried for years and finally gave up. And I had a website that was devoted just to that. And I probably worked more weddings than most magicians have, because I have really made a concerted effort towards that. In fact, I was even in the New York Times. They were doing an article about entertainment at weddings in one of their weekend editions or something, and they were searching on the internet and found me in Houston, Texas, and then they called to interview me to talk about what it was like and the kinds of shows, just as being other aside from DJs and live bands. I mean, what else is there that they have? So I've worked some, and I'm a ordained minister, so I can actually do the service itself. My thinking was, if I can do the service, then I can hang around afterwards and actually perform and entertain the group, And I've done that for some.
But then they can look at you and they go, "Are you a real minister? Really?
Or is this just a trick?
Is that all legal? What just happened there?"
Exactly. And I have had, again, a few, but not as many as I would hope, and as much as I would try. And I've even gone to wedding conventions. I don't know if they have those in the UK.
Oh, yeah. They're big over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've been to a few of those where I've had my own booth, and where I'll be performing some magic, and I'll have a little video showing in the background so they can kind of see how I interact with people. And I explained exactly what you do. I mean, you have disparate groups of people who are just kind of branched off themselves, and my idea is to bring them all together and also to entertain during the times whenever they're having their photos taken, etc. But I think over here, perhaps the key may be it's women look at this as their one moment in life when they are the queen. It may be different in the UK, but here, from the time they are a child, their father's calling them princes, and finally they become the queen, for a day. I mean, it's all about them,
Yeah.
the hair, the makeup, the dress. I mean, my gosh, I mean, it's all about them. And anything that may detract from that people may talk about later, wow, that magician was great. It's like,
Or the
well, what did you
groom.
think about my dress? So
Yeah.
it's just taking anything that is good that would take away from them, they don't want. It's kind of what I'm thinking.
I can't get into the psyche of American brides,
Yeah.
but I would like to think if you're going to upstage a bride on her wedding day, you're definitely doing something right. Although having said that, if you knock over the cake, they're going to talk about the magician, but not in a good way.
Don't worry about that. We'll clean that
So
up later.
yeah, we'll clean that up later. So yeah, I said for me, it would be about, as I said, I was going to say convincing. You can tell them you're not going to be upstaged, but as you said, when the bride and groom and the family go off to have their photos taken, then everyone's left with, well, they're the only people I know here, and now they're not here. So what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So as I said, I just don't know.
Aren't the weddings longer in the UK? I mean, don't they last all day and they have like breakfast and lunch and
I think
dinner?
marriages last longer in the UK. But
Okay.
weddings, weddings can be, the service is maybe like a half hour, but we can be booked for maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. But also I know a difference, especially in the corporate area, is with the British magicians, we will get booked to do close up around the tables. So
Okay.
even during the meal, we will entertain people at the tables, and then we can do something after the dinner, or if there's awards, we can do something on stage.
Hmm.
But if you get booked for a corporate event in the States, it is pretty much on stage doing stand up. Close up around the tables is again just very, very rare, I do believe.
Well, let me correct that for the UK people who will be listening to this then as well. I do a little bit of both. In fact, when I am, in my corporate shows, which is my main bread and butter, I would probably say that 60% is strolling. Probably about another 30% is after dinner show only, and the other 10% of both strolling and an after dinner. So I would be, because sometimes they are in a buffet line. So they want me to
Yeah.
kind of entertain while people are standing in line. And because obviously it's difficult to go to their table while they're eating and say, pick a card just as their fork is up to their mouth, kind of a thing. So you learn those things, obviously, about working restaurants and everything.
Yeah.
But also there will be a cocktail time beforehand. So I'll say I can get to know people. This way they will feel comfortable whenever I call them up on stage later. So whenever I say, John, we have nothing prearranged. We met earlier at the bar. Do you mind coming up and helping me? He's like, oh yeah, he's a fun guy. He's not going to make fun of me. He knows my character basically. So I encourage my clients to actually use me for both. So, and they think, well, that's a pretty good idea, because they're just thinking one thing. Typically when they see a magician, it's like they know me as doing stage, or they know me as doing close-up or seances or whatever it is. And so, oh, you also do that? It's kind of like, well, I didn't know you did illusions, or I didn't know, you do doves. I mean, I don't, but they see you myopically just through one lens.
Yeah, I mean, over here, close-up is the predominant style of magic, and it can be a bit of a hard sell to try and convince them that you can do something on stage as well. They not really sure how it works, or it'll interrupt the flow of the evening, and it can be a hard sell. But I think there is a difference between the British market and the American market. There's obviously some overlap. And people are people, and people always want to be entertained. But I do think there's a difference in the psyche of corporate people and the way they view things.
When you do corporate shows, then, John, do you try to customize your show each time? In other words, trying to, I don't know, use their logo, their brand, their
I try to do
identity?
as little extra work as possible.
Okay.
But if somebody says, we'd like you to, I did one. It was actually over in Florida, and we'd like you to produce our. I think it was the CEO of the company, and they wanted me to work in all their brands, and so yes, absolutely. And then you go and talk to people who've done more of this. So if they ask, then absolutely I can. It also depends what the company is, because obviously some companies, the things they do or the products that they provide are so much easier to work into a magic routine than others. So it's I would offer it. Obviously, doing 2 tiers, you can have just show, or if you want it tailored, you can have that, and then obviously I'd be able to do it. But what I also tell people is I can do anything, or anything is possible given time, space, and money. Because people will say, we'd love you to do a completely bespoke show for us, and they just don't have a budget. So it's like, well, no, I'm not going to do it. Or they say, we've got something next week, we've got the budget, we need this, and it's like, well, you haven't given me enough time to do it. So things have got to be, everything's got to be in place to be able to do a really good bespoke show.
When you work for certain corporate clients year after year, and I know you have repeat business, do you do the same show, do a completely different show, throw in a few of the oldies but goodies, and have some new stuff? What is your style for repeat business?
I have done completely new. It is quite difficult, because obviously we work on our A-list material. This is our show. Sometimes they'll say, oh, we love that trick you did where like the card ends up in your mouth, which is oh, you mean the one with the surprise ending. So
right.
It depends. I remember I did a company. I was working with a friend of mine called Charles Burns, who many of the British magicians will know. He's the country's, possibly the world's best silhouette cutter. And he had been booked, I kid you not, about 15 years in a row.
For the same company?
For the same company, and pretty much all the same people. And I've been booked for 10 years doing close-up this time for the same people. And you can't just do all the same tricks. So it kind of does force you to learn some new things, or go to your B-list material, C-list. But it is kind of pretty tough. So for the repeats, I have a couple of acts, and I can sort of mix and match things, but definitely keep notes of what you have done for people before. Otherwise, you will go, yep, this is great, and they go, yeah, we saw that 2 years ago. You go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
Yeah, I keep a log also of the companies I worked for and what I did in the show. So when I get called back, which is another thing, as far as getting called back, do you wait for their call, or are you proactive? And when you are proactive, do you contact them a few weeks, months in advance to say, hey, remember me from last year? Do you want to do it again? Or do you just wait for them to call? What is your business marketing strategy?
For some of them, I do wait. I will keep an eye on whether they are doing something, doing the same thing the following year. I think also people will say, well, we've already had that. We're looking for something different. So we had a magician last year. We want to show that we can come up with new ideas, because I think with some companies, and I've heard them say this, is I've suggested that I can even do a different show next year, or this coming year, and as I said, that's their answer. No, we want to show our staff that we've got some new ideas, and so much as we loved you, no, sorry.
What do you find is your competition? I mean, when they say we're going in a different direction, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but what kind of acts do they replace you with?
If you're doing after dinner, they could book a comedian. I actually lost out to a troupe that did drumming and dancing. And you're like, okay,
can't compete with that.
Yeah, you can't compete. And then but sometimes they don't want to tell you, which is very nice. But it could be anything.
That's true. I once started with a client, which I've now had for a very long time, but they had tried different things before they came upon me, and they said they had even had a belly dancer. It's like, we're just trying everything. And then we had you, and it's like, this is great. And so the reason they like to use me is because I'm a known quantity. They know what to expect from me whenever I come back for their clients, because they invite clients to this event.
I think the thing that people are worried about is, if you, no matter how good you are, if they go, ladies and gentlemen, you saw him last year, he's back again, and people just go, oh, it's the same thing. Magicians, people assume all magicians are the same.
Plug and play. Yep. I had a situation where I did a show a while back over Christmas in which I talked with a guy afterwards that almost didn't come. My wife and I said, we saw this magician last year that our company had hired. He was horrible. And we thought, we're not going to come and see another magician. It's like, okay, well, it's a Christmas party and there's free dinner. Let's go. And you were great. So they throw us all in the same category. I mean, not all piano players play the same. Not all magicians are the same,
Yeah, I've had that before. They go, oh no, we've tried a magician. It doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, I'm the same. I went to a restaurant and didn't enjoy the food, so I hate all restaurants. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that to their face.
Yeah,
but that's
good analogy.
That's the attitude they have.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how would you overcome that? I mean, do you try? It's hard to argue with someone when they have an opinion. I think you can maybe say something to try to dissuade them and to persuade them, but before long you realize I'm going uphill and I'm not going anyplace with this.
Yeah. Once they've made up their mind, it is very difficult. And also, what I get a lot of, I'm hoping other people get this as well, and it's not just me. But I can talk to someone who then has to talk to someone else who makes the decision. And I'd love to come in, I'll chat about what I can do, and they go, no, it's okay, we'll talk about it. And you go, well, I'm only as good as you describing me.
Right.
And then they come back and go, no, sorry, we've gone with someone else. And I go, what did you say? No, you didn't come back to me and go, he or she has asked me this question. What should I say? To be out of the loop when people are discussing whether or not they should book me is so frustrating.
It is, which leads me to the question, how do you get to the decision maker?
I don't know, bribery, find out where they live. It's, some people will just do anything, say anything to get to the decision maker. It's really tough. I don't have an answer. I'd like to say maybe luck, opportunity. I'm sure some people, they go on a plane and they're sitting next to someone and they go, oh, what do you do? And they go, oh, I'm the CEO of a company that's putting on a convention next week. And they'll get talking to the CEO directly. I'm not that lucky.
Yeah.
So, as I said, it's all difficult. It really is. I don't have any, hard and fast answers.
Yeah.
You can just ask. I mean, it's one of those things. If you don't ask, you don't get. But I think if they say no, you don't have an opportunity to ask again.
That's true, which is why whenever I go, I have as much prepared material as I can with me, and I prefer to sit down with them as opposed to do a phone conversation. I live in the third largest city in the United States here, so a lot of my work, because I work in the energy companies, and this is a big energy capital in Houston, so I can go around town and go to their offices downtown or wherever it needs to be to visit with them. And but the point is, I can slide that contract across and say, okay, well, if you don't have any more questions, do you want to go ahead and sign this? And we can memorialize this right away. Well, we got to make a few decisions. Well, who else is actually in on making the decisions, and can I meet with them? And I'm trying to get to the person. And part of the problem is, a lot of times when it's nothing more than just a Christmas party, as opposed to some out of a rollout event or a trade show or something like that, oftentimes that is relegated to the administrative assistant. And so that person is given powers. They feel like, well, I now am in charge of this whole thing and I better be good, and I got to take everything back to my boss, who actually makes the decision, because that person is the ultimate decision maker, but they don't have time to sort through 12 magicians and 16 bands and the kinds of invitations and what font do we want to use for the invitations and whatever. The administrative assistant is now has a big responsibility for this to be successful. So he or she must be, making those decisions. But that's why I try to say, well, is it possible that I can get with you, with that decision maker, to be in the room to help make this decision and make your job even easier, to make sure that you are making, or to give you a little bit more boost of confidence that you have made the right decision because your boss is agreeing with your recommendation.
Yeah, as you said, that it will be assigned to someone, and many times they do. They have to tick the boxes. Do we have the flowers? Do we have the band? Do we have the magician? Do we have whatever? Mm-hmm. And they've just got to find them. They get given a budget, and a lot of times the lowest number wins.
Well,
it really does, and it doesn't matter. They don't really care about the finesses that we know we can add.
Well, that's what happens when it gets thrown over to a party planner as opposed to an agent. Whenever someone is given that responsibility, if they want to shrug it off and they say, okay, we've got $12,000 or something for a Christmas party, and so they'll give it to a party planner, and that person then is looking for the lowest price provider because they want to keep $10,000 and only spend $2,000 of that, basically, So they're saying, okay, well, can I find $100 magician someplace? So they're looking again for the lowest cost. So I'd rather work directly with the company than with the party planner. What about trade shows? Is that something else you do? Very many of those? Is that?
I don't do as many as I'd like. I know there's magicians that can make whole careers about doing trade shows. So I've not done anywhere near as many as I would like, but I do love them because you're not just there to entertain. You're there for a specific purpose that will directly help the company. Mm-hmm. You are bringing in people. I remember one trade show I did, and I brought someone onto the stand. I kept them there, introduced them. That was fine. They made a deal, and I said, if that goes, how much is that worth? And they said £5 million. I was like, okay, So when you can stop people, or when you're, when what you're doing has that sort of impact, it's I would say they're both are rewarding. When you get people that are just amazed and go, you've made my evening, that's rewarding. But when you can prove to a company that you are worth having on a trade show stand, that has its own reward as well.
Right.
So I do like them. I do subscribe to the not just getting a huge crowd. Mm-hmm. For me, it's more about picking and choosing and making an impact that way, rather than doing a show, everyone's watching, and then at the end they go, that was great, thanks very much indeed, and walk off.
Yeah.
I was talking about this to a friend of mine, about getting back into trade shows, let's just say that. And we're talking about people say, oh, would you like a flyer? And you go, no thanks. Okay. Or one we had was, would you like a cream egg? Thank you very much indeed. And that was it. And you go, is that all you've got? You just offer me a cream egg and that's it.
Wow.
there's nothing. You could say, "Oh, where did you get those cream eggs?" And go, "I have no idea." Well, what was the company? I don't care. There's so many things at trade shows that are instantly forgettable and have nothing to do with the company, nothing at all. There's nothing about them that will make you remember the company. But with a magician on the stand, we can make it memorable.
Right.
That's the thing. So, I do love doing trade shows, but and I hope to do a lot more in the future.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't you been on Britain's Got Talent also?
I will correct you if that's okay.
Okay.
I haven't done Britain's Got Talent. I did do Penn Teller Fool Us.
Okay. I remember it was a TV show. Pardon me. So that was it. So tell me about your experience there.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Having to fly over. Did you come over just for that and then go back home?
I actually did the first. I didn't do the pilot, but I did the first episode.
In the U.S. or the U.K.?
In the UK.
Okay.
So
it was
this
almost
was
Jon Allen or John Archer was on.
Yeah, John Archer and Ben Earl. Spoiler alert: they were the ones that fooled them in the pilot. But I went on and I did a version of my pain game, which, for those that don't know, is my version of the Russian roulette. And I wanted to change it slightly to the marketed version because I thought maybe Penn, probably Teller, would know about it. So I wanted to change the method. And so I went
Smash
on.
and stab, basically.
Yeah, Smash and Stab is the Wayne Dobson routines. So yeah, it's the Russian roulette with a nail. But for me, I would have a nail in a block of wood, prove that the nail's solid, have someone check it sharp, put the nail and the block into a bag, mix them up. But the difference with the pain game over, I believe, any that had come before, was that I can get someone else to mix up the bags as well when I'm not looking.
Okay.
So not only do they not know where the nail is, but I don't know where it is either. And I would get someone to tell me when to stop. And when they do, I would slam my hand on the bag that they said. And I would do that with 3 other bags. And then the bag that's left, open it up and take out the nail. So that's the one that I did. Because I think for me, to doing in Penn and Teller, it was important I did one of my own routines. I didn't want to go on there and do someone else's, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I just felt it was an opportunity for me to show my own magic.
And originality.
Yeah, exactly. I also remember that there was a bit of discussion about having the girl who was helping me slam her hand down on it. And I personally didn't want to do that. I had suggested maybe I could do Jonathan Ross, who was the host at the time, to do him, but the producer was like, no, we'd prefer if you could do the girl. So I didn't want to, but then you have to weigh up being on primetime Saturday night television, Penn and Teller, or I don't want the girl to slam her hand down. So I did, and it's perfectly safe. All those going, oh, I can't believe you got someone else's hand with a Russian roulette.
Yeah.
But there were so many safeguards in place. I mean, the best thing is the method, but there were other safeguards in place that the producers made sure that I adhered to. So it was perfectly safe, but I was just never happy with the visuals of that. And I think Penn and Teller weren't happy with the visuals of that either.
So they said, we think we figured that out.
They said we think we figured it out. So yeah, I didn't fool them. That was the thing.
But what did that do for your career? I know when people come on, a lot of times they might, for an example, have some shows where they're performing either in Vegas or some casino somewhere, and they're just trying to use this as a promotional thing to put butts in seats. I mean, did you have some in game, or did you just want to be on for?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I was asked to go on, and it's like, who's going to turn that down?
Yeah.
So I was never going to turn it down. But because it was also the first one, people really didn't know what it was going to be like, how popular it would be or anything like that.
Right.
But I think each of these things it's another stepping stone. So, for example, when I won the IBM close-up, that was a stepping stone to being able to do more lectures or being known in the magic world. And to do Penn and Teller Fool Us, that was something else that I could say, and he's been on TV. And so each thing that you do is just helpful. Being
Right.
a member of the Inner Magic Circle. Okay,
Sure.
there's many of them, but if you can say member of the Inner Magic Circle, he's been on Penn and Teller Fool Us, he's won this award, he's entertained these royalty, whatever. It all just adds to the way that you're perceived over someone who may be, well, I've won an award,
And that's all.
So for the
Yeah.
public, the public, they like all that.
No, I agree. It a lot of times only means something, some awards to us as magicians, but in totality, it can be overwhelming in a good way to the public who's going to hire you, because when they're introducing you or promoting you to their clients, to their company employees,
Yeah.
and saying you need to attend to see this guy because he has done this, 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 and this, and this. He's going to be outstanding. So
Yeah.
you're really put on a pedestal.
Yeah, I mean, how many magicians are award-winning magicians?
Just about everybody.
Yes, and I've been abroad, and therefore I'm an international award-winning magician.
There you go.
So it is anything that can help you to stand out from everyone else, I guess.
Do you prefer to be more of a creative type, a performer, a businessman, marketer? What do you prefer? What is your forte? What do you like to do most?
I love performing.
Okay.
It's such an adrenaline rush to see the reactions that magic can get from people. To be able to make them laugh, to be able to make them, gasp in amazement. The best reaction is silence, in a good way,
Okay.
where people, their brains can't process what they've seen and they don't know how to react. The applause is great, the laughter is great, but as a magician, you just want that. I have no idea how to react. So I love performing. I love meeting people as well.
Okay.
The creative, the creative side as well. I love the creative process. It's something that I do.
What is your process? I mean, what is your process, and what's your muse? How do you come about creating?
There's no single way of doing it. As I said, the silent treatment was based on the premise of a film. The pain game was that actually came about because of a famous YouTube video showing people doing a Russian roulette and actually stabbing their hands. And so my process for that was, okay, how can I stop people stabbing their hands? Why are they all doing this? They're
Right.
really good magicians, fantastic magicians, but they're making mistakes. So what can I do so that no one ever does that again? And so that was that process. Something like Paragon 3D, which is my card to clear box, that came about from seeing one, and despite it being a clever method, didn't suit me. So I wanted to come up with a version that did suit me, and so that was my creative process. But I think in general, it's not just I've learned to move, now what can I do with it? I know for some people that's the way that they go about creating a trick, but for me, there's got to be a hook or a premise or something. I know I said with like the pain game, it was kind of method based, but that was to solve an actual problem of people injuring themselves. But in general, it's a premise, it's a hook, and how can I show that in a magical way? So for me, that's the important thing, and the methods will come.
So you jot down notes of ideas and things, or you wake up in the middle of the night and say, "Oh, this will work," or what?
Yeah, I mean, I never wake up sort of Paul McCartney style and going, I've got it, you know.
Okay.
Apparently he created Yesterday. He woke up with this song in his head, and in 10 minutes he wrote Yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will just be thinking about maybe something else or having dinner or whatever, and I guess my mind never really switches off. It's a bit like, was it Professor Xavier? Is it the man with X-ray eyes?
X-Man. Yeah. No.
The man with X-ray eyes, who eventually could see through his own eyes and could never stop seeing things.
Oh, that's
So
right.
I
I've
guess
forgotten about that guy.
yeah. So I guess you never really stop thinking about methods and looking around, seeing the properties of things, seeing, oh, that's interesting. Actually, there's one I'll tell you that came about by accident, which was flexion, which is my key bender.
Okay.
And that came about purely because of the way that a couple of things were sitting on my desk. And I looked at that, I went, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if, and I realized that I was able to bend a key just because of the accidental way that things were. So I think you have to look around, and it's all based in the real world. That's the other thing for me.
I remember talking to John Cornelius about that very thing, because he always referred to the hardware store as being his magic shop.
Yeah, absolutely. Magic shops, we love them, and don't take this the wrong way, but they're the worst magic shops.
Okay.
Because there's lots of things that are designed for magicians. If you go to a hardware store or some of these dollar stores,
Yeah.
that's where you get things for people in the real world. And if you could do magic with those, you're set to perform, and people just go, oh yeah, he's doing magic with things we know about.
Yeah. That's why, although I'm good at cards and do a lot of cards, the things I think that resonate most with people are non-card effects. If you're doing something with rubber band, a piece of paper, a coin sometimes, or something that is in the world, people in general don't toy with cards or even play card games as often as we would like to think they do.
Oh, we get, you can go up to someone and say, take a card, okay, they expect that, and say, just write your name on the card, and they go, I'm sorry? What?
Yeah.
You want me to write on the card?
Exactly.
Because they've had a deck of cards that has been passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
And it's vacuum sealed, and we just, although you want me to ruin it, And I also I've had it at some events, and people they go, oh, they've got these torn pieces of card, and they go, I don't know if these are important to you. And you just go, no, you just throw them away, and people go. So yeah, playing cards for us are completely different to playing cards for laymen. But I do actually think card tricks are okay. Card tricks can be really powerful. I know people will say, well, to laymen, a card trick is just a card trick. But as I said, for me, it's a premise. So I know we saw, if I could mention the any card at any number, which I think is an okay trick, but I think is a powerful premise. So yeah, it's a card trick. Yeah, the card appears at the number, but it's what it can say that is far more memorable than the card trick itself. So for me, if you're going to do a card trick, it comes to one of my. I have so many things going around in my head. This is well edited in post, but for magicians, I say to them that the most important question you can ask is why.
Right.
The what being the method, or the how. The method, not important. Why? Oh yeah, the card comes to the top. Yeah, but why?
I mean, why are you doing it?
Yeah, why are you doing it? Why should people care? Because that's the other thing I try and do with my magic. Going back to the creative side of things, is why should anybody care about what I do? So what I say is, if my first priority as a magician is not to entertain people, and it is not to even do any magic for people. Those are not my priorities. My first priority is to make people care. If they don't care, you could be the best in the world. All right. Would you like to see the greatest gambling demonstration? No.
Right.
But it's the greatest in the world. I don't care.
I don't care.
And they have to care about something, whether it is, the first line, the premise of what you're going to do, whether it's, may I borrow your wedding ring? That will make them care. Whether it's you as a person, obviously, David Williamson, who I've always looked up to, he can do anything because you care about him. He makes you care, really does, So for card tricks, ask it why.
I think that may be in part why we as magicians subliminally are asking for their signature or their name, because we are personalizing it, because the name is something they carry from birth to death.
Okay, so you see, I have a thing about this. But people do, magicians will say, I want you to sign your name on the card. If you've got a group of people, you get one person to sign their name on the card, but then why should anybody else care? It's not their signature.
Yeah, it's personal to one person, not the group.
Yeah. So I get round that by asking them to name any word in the English language. Any word at all, and I'll try and use that word in the presentation. So again, it makes the card unique by them writing on it. But now we as a group are having fun with the word that they have chosen. And I get lots of comedy from the word as well. So that's something, that's something for everybody, and people will chip in with their own jokes. So that they do care. So, I would say to people, don't get people to write their names on a card. Get them to write any word at all.
Not a bad idea. Anything but their name, basically, and where they can write elephant or house or monopoly or whatever word, something on there that means something to them.
Yeah, I've had someone write the word
U-H, just
No, just A.
Oh, A.
Just the word that's it.
Okay.
But then I've had someone write flocky knocking in hilipilification, which is just great, and so suddenly everybody's interested,
Exactly.
So that's what I say to people who say, get them to sign their name. I say no. So
yeah, anything but your name. Very good.
Anything but your name.
Good advice. Well, as we start to wrap up over here, the name of my podcast is called The Magic Word Podcast, and I always like to close by asking my guests what it is that is their philosophy of life. What is it you live by?
You didn't give me this question ahead of time so I could give it some thought, did you?
That's my whole point. Spring it on you.
My philosophy for life.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a word. It can be a sentence or something. I mean, when you wake up in the morning, what is it that you want to live for, plan to do?
Well, as President Kamala Harris once said, no,
future man.
I think I'm always looking to learn. There is this thing of, you never stop learning, but that thing about always ask why, I think is important. It's probably the most important question. You got what, how, when, what, whatever, but always ask why.
Love that.
And it will open up your eyes to many, many things. And yeah, I just try and learn as much as I can. It's why I love traveling, learning from different cultures, from different people with different experiences, experiencing so many different things. But yeah, I think my philosophy, ask why, have fun, and drink lots of coffee.
There we go. I remember many years ago with Frank Price would make the comment here in Houston. Frank, great close-up guy and judge who has since passed, but he used to say, "So what's the effect?" And it really made you stop and think, okay, well, what am I trying to do here? I mean, is it one of the basic elemental effects? Was it a transposition? Was it a penetration? Was it a torn and restored? And, I mean, when it boils down to it, what is your effect, that you're trying to
Yeah, we could talk about another hour for this, but
Well,
um, magicians have the method. The effect is everything. The method is nothing.
hmm
But it was another is a friend of mine and someone I really respect, Dan Harlan.
yes,
He said that it's not the method, it's not the effect that matters. He said the experience is everything. It's
that's
the
right.
experience that you give to me. And I've taken this word experience with me for many, many years. Because even if you can explain what the effect is, what's the experience for the audience?
hmm
It comes
What do
back
they
to
take
that
away?
making them care.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could be having the best time of your life with this incredible little sponge ball effect. We know that the ball, multiplies, whatever's vanishes, but all right, well, what experience are you giving the audience whilst you're doing this effect? So yes, you have to have a good method. The effect needs to be clear,
hmm
but you also have to ask yourself again, why are you doing it?
Right.
Which is linked to the, can you
Experience.
make them care? What experience are you offering?
Right.
And again, that links to one of my favorite quotes of all time is from Maya Angelou, who said, I've learned that people will forget what I said, people will forget what I did, but people will never forget how I made them feel.
That's a beautiful quote.
Very profound, but
hmm
and it is absolute. It's true in life, but with magicians, absolutely. They will forget the trick, they will forget the jokes you made or whatever, but they will never forget whether you made them feel stupid or whether you made them feel incredible or whatever, you know?
That's what art is all about. Whether it's painting, performing arts, music, whatever, you have a sense, a feeling, or something. So, yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And I'll say just with art, if I may just quickly, because
Yeah.
we're getting into things here now, is I was told that the worst thing for a magician and for anything is not for someone to go, oh no, I hate magic. You got to someone, would you like to see a magic trick? Oh no, 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 no. I prefer to stick needles in my eyes than see a
Anything but
magic.
magic.
Yeah, that's not the worst response you can get from someone. The worst response is for people to not care and just to go, whatever. If they love something, great. If they hate something, at least they have a position on it. You know, if they just go, I don't really care. If you want to show me a trick, then fine. If not, and that's the worst thing that someone can do is just not care.
Do you accept that as a challenge to try to make them change their opinion?
It depends how busy I am.
Mm.
Sometimes I do. I if someone says you shouldn't do something, I will probably go ahead and do it, except maybe drive on the left in America. But if someone's, we have this thing, never start with a card trick.
Yeah.
I will start with a card trick. But I have actually said this to someone. I said, who hates card tricks? Seriously, is there anyone who genuinely hates card tricks? And I've had people put up their hand and go, I'm going to do this for you. And then I just go on and hopefully try and change their mind. And dare I say,
hmm
I generally do. So, if they don't mind, yeah, I will go and try and change their mind.
That's great. Great. Yeah. I kind of going off on a tangent here also. I remember at the Magic Island one time, I think it was Joe DeLion who was performing like close up jazz magic at the bar. We were just hanging around after a show, and there were a couple, myself, another magician, and Joe, and there was a lady who was just sitting there. We were talking with her, and he started showing her a trick, and then she kept trying to bust him, trying to change the card or, just messing with him. And the more she would mess with him, the more he would try to overcome that to prove that he's really doing magic. I mean, he just saw this as being a real challenge and ended up winning and convincing her, yeah, I love that. That was fun. Because rather than being, I guess, worried about it and thinking, oh, well, she doesn't care, and I'm just, kind of going to shrink over my hole. It's just he doubled down.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not like that. If someone wants to challenge me or do that, with one hand behind your back, or let me see those cards, it's like you're taking this way too seriously. I've
Good
said that
point.
to people. It's like you're taking this way too seriously.
Yeah.
Like, just we're here to have some fun.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go to a concert and say, to the guitarist, play that with 3 broken strings. Play that
Yeah.
play that left-handed. Use my guitar.
Yeah.
Here,
Yeah.
use my guitar.
Exactly.
You wouldn't.
Yeah. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen.
No.
John,
No.
thanks very much. I appreciate this, and this has been a wonderful hour. Now you can go clean that up.
Yeah, I really should go and clean this up. So
It's been a wonderful chat.
That's my philosophy from life as well. Just clear up your mess.
Clean up your own mess. That's good. So with Magic Word Podcast, that was Jon Allen. This is Scotty out. Thank you, John. Wow, how fun was that? That was just a quick hour. I can't believe it. There was so much information in there right from the get-go. And so I appreciate your time, John, even though there is a big time difference between us. I'm glad we were able to get together to record this little chat together. We, again, need to get together much more often. I want to thank everybody again for tuning in. And if you want to help the Magic Word, one way of easily doing that for at no cost to you would be if you could help us just by, if you're an iTunes user, to go over to the iTunes store and in the podcast store, they're giving us a 5-star rating, if you will, please, with some nice comments. If you enjoy the podcast, if you could just leave again some sort of a nice comment, again with a 5-star rating. 4 stars don't help us much. Certainly 1, 2, and 3 don't, and no 4. So 5-star comments be very helpful. Just go to the iTunes store, and it'll probably have other places, maybe in the Android Play Store and elsewhere, where you download and listen to your podcast. There's probably some place that you can give your comments and your rating of this podcast. If you know us and love us, show us some love. Thanks a lot. That's all that I'm asking. So that's all we've got then for this week. Again, just if you will remember, go over and to subscribe to our pod letter. Keep up to date on what's going to be going. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and all that good stuff. And follow us over on Facebook if you are a Facebook follower at the Magic Word Podcast. So until next week, stay well, get booked, and remember to always ask why. This is Scotty out.